Hi, I wanted to talk to you today about expectation and hope. They're basically the same thing. Anyway, Kieran was diagnosed when he was very young, so 2 years and 7 months. But prior to our meeting with the paediatric consultant who gave him his diagnosis, we met with a speech and language therapist. So Kieran was 2 years and 4 months, and he wasn't making the same sort of noises that our friends' children were making from a young age, like ba ba, da da, and he hadn't developed any speech. So at the age of 2, the health visitor referred him to the speech and language therapist. And I didn't realise at the time, but there was more than just no speech. There wasn't any copying, there wasn't any pointing, any gestures. And it's kind of tricky when your child's 2 to think about their communication and how they get their needs met, because basically they get their needs met because you're meeting their needs as their parent. You feed them at dinner time and breakfast time and tea time. You take them to the potty. He would cry if he needed his nappy changing, which is kind of like a normal thing you would expect at a 2-year-old. And, he would be taken out on outings. It wasn't that he was making requests of what he needed. So it was difficult to look back and think, if I'd known, I could have done things differently at that particular age. So there he is, 2 years and 4 months, and we went to see a speech and language therapist. And it was very distressing, actually. I've mentioned before in previous videos, they never mention the A word. They won't tell you that they think that your child might be on the autistic spectrum. And I honestly don't understand why, because if we know, we can start doing some research and looking about how to help our child. So between 2 years and 4 months and 2 years and 7 months when he got his diagnosis, I could have been doing something proactive with Kieran that I wasn't doing. And everything I've read says early intervention, so that's a lost 3 months in his development, but never mind that. That's not what I wanted to talk to you about. This speech and language therapist said to me at our meeting that Kieran would never know me and he would only ever use me as a tool to get his needs met. That was such an awful thing to say to me. Bearing in mind, she didn't tell me she thought he might be on the autistic spectrum, and it made no sense to me. Why would she think that? Why would she even say that? And I was very upset. And I phoned my mum. I said to her, this is what this speech and language therapist has said. And she said to me, what's changed since before you went into the meeting? Because he certainly knew you before you went into the meeting. So he does know you and he isn't going to use you as a tool. It was very, very upsetting. But my point today is, even though she said that, and I think that was very wrong of her to say that, even if that was the truth, that he would never know me, it is not helpful to say that to a parent. And he does know me. He's always known me. He knows his dad, he knows his brother, he knows his grandparents. He knows people who are familiar to him, and he knows how to use his electronic PECs to ask for people who are important to him. He'll constantly point at pictures of my dad if he wants to FaceTime with my dad, which is hilarious because Kieran obviously doesn't talk. But he'll use my husband's phone to find my picture to phone me if he wants me. So that's a terrible thing of her to say to me when he was 2 years and 4 months old. But it just really highlights the fact that even though professionals who've read the book might have a perception of how your child might be and might develop, as a parent, as a carer, as a person who's really involved in their life and who really knows them, you don't need to listen to that. There's always hope and there's always an expectation to be met. There are so many things that Kieran does that we take for granted now. And obviously, they're not things that other 18-year-olds do. We're not naive. We know that he's not going off to university. We know that he's not going to have a driving license and drive a car. We're not daft. But we also know that we cannot put limitations on what he can achieve. The other day, I had my coffee mug out and the coffee was next to it. And he put 3 heaped spoonfuls of coffee into my mug and then poured some lukewarm water into it to make a cup of coffee for me. Now, that's amazing, isn't it? He made a cup of coffee and it was for me. It wasn't for him, it was for me. Now, a lot of people say people with autism don't understand and don't have empathy for other people's wants or needs, where he knows that I need coffee often. And he made me that coffee. And that's just incredible. And it just makes me realise and remember that I should never ever think to myself, he can't, because he can. There's so many things that he does. He spoon feeds himself. That took years. He dresses himself. That took years. He goes to the bathroom. He asks to go to the bathroom. He asks if he wants something to eat or drink. He's making requests of us. He can certainly copy now if you do songs with him that have got actions. And I found out he could copy because every night before bedtime we would say our prayers and bless ourselves. And then one night, out of the blue, he blessed himself. He copied me. And I'd been told that this would never happen, that he didn't have that ability. I honestly don't know how anybody who meets Kieran for half an hour a month for a couple of years and then moves on to their next job and doesn't ever see him again can make these assumptions of him or of anybody. So my message is just don't give up hope and don't let anybody put limits on what your child can achieve. They can achieve everything within their ability, but they need you to help support them and encourage them, just like all children do. They need you to believe in them, and they'll know whether you believe in them or not. They're not daft either. They've got different struggles and challenges. But Kieran, on paper, you'd think, no. Kieran knows that if we go out, we need our shoes. And if he wants me to take him out, he can't say, Mum, take me out. But what he can do is go and get me my shoes. And he doesn't get random shoes. He doesn't get his dad's shoes or his brother's shoes. He gets me my shoes. He knows that if he wants his dad to get out of bed, Dad needs glasses. He gets his dad's glasses and takes them to him because he wants him to get up, probably to get his breakfast. He knows that I wear scrunchies in my hair. If he wants me to get up, he gives me a scrunchie. I mean, it's hilarious, really, because he just puts it on top of my head. But he knows that if I get up in the morning, one of the first things I do generally is just tie my hair up, bed hair, you know what it's like, put a scrunchie on. So he knows I've got to have that scrunchie. And he knows if we're going in the car, we need the car keys. He goes and gets the car keys. So not the verbal communication you would expect in life, but he's communicating, and he's communicating his need to us, and we understand him. And you would understand him too. Speech therapist, when he was 2 years and 4 months, he won't know you. He'll only ever use you as a tool to meet his needs. Trust in your child. Trust in your instinct. They need your belief, they need your love, and they need your hope. And they don't know that there's anybody out there telling them they're not going to do it. So guess what? In their own time, with the right support, the right people around them who do believe in them, they are going to light their penny candle with a star. Yes, they are. And you're going to help them. Anyway, you take good care and keep that hope going. And always, 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 you believe in your person. You believe in that little person. They can do anything. They're amazing. And don't let anybody take that away from you. And more importantly, don't let anybody take that away from them. God bless.